Hi, everyone. This is Pastor Torri from Union Congregational, and I'm coming on a little bit early because we are trying some new streaming technology that I was just figuring out today. And hopefully I'll be sharing a screen with you and kind of learning tonight as I go. But it is story time tonight with Pastor Torri, and would love to share a story with you, and also wanted to share a poem, which hopefully will be on your screen as I pull it up. And here's what it will look like, kind of. Hopefully it'll look like that, or I can even make it bigger and me smaller, or I can take up the whole screen, or I can just like boom, be myself again. And we're hoping that this will work not only for Wednesday nights, but we're hoping to try it out on Sunday as well. So that is kind of the view I want to give you. That's the view I want to give you tonight. And tonight, the theme is looking in the wrong places. And the story I want to share, I'm going to make myself big again. The story that I want to share is from a book by a woman named Margaret Becker. She is one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite musicians. She is also a writer, and she wrote this a few years ago. It is called With New Eyes. I have to get used to the angles here. And it is an excerpt from her book. And I'm going to pull this up right here to give you a little bit of a visual. Okay. And we begin reading. That a man, Ms. Becker. He a man. Who? Who is a man, Cecilia? My sister questions her special education student. Him, she says, pointing. Up there, on a board. My sister Katie turns to see a picture of Mother Teresa, their subject for the day, and she chuckles. No, Cecilia, that's no man. That is a great woman. You just don't see her hair. We're going to learn about her today. Cecilia knows what she knows. Under her breath, she says again, that a man. Katie, a disenfranchised parochial school graduate, laughs as she shares it with me. When we catch our breath, she goes on to detail her great respect for Mother Teresa and her work. She explains why, in the backwoods town in Virginia, she chose to include her in the real life basics course she'd quietly been teaching these high school special ed kids instead of the standard curriculum. They need to know real things. How to balance a checkbook, how to make change at a store, how to go for a job interview, and whom to respect, Katie shares. I agree. I remember the first time I saw an interview with Mother Teresa. It was one of the few she had granted to date. She resisted them mostly, probably thinking they were a waste of time when placed against the prospect of holding a dying beggar in her arms. But somehow, this station secured her, or secured an interview with her. My family wasn't interested, and I didn't want to be distracted, so I went down to the basement and lugged up the old 20-inch black and white to my second-story bedroom. I struggled with its rabbit ear tuning until I finally bent the telescope arms into a sweet spot. The picture was semi-clear, as long as I didn't move around. I settled in. Some people have a talent for words, and Mother Teresa had that. No statement, no answer went longer than 2 or 3 sentences. Yet their impact upon me would last for years. The interviewer whom I'd seen before many times, was normally the highly evolved intellectual, able to put out that hidden side of any subject. But in this piece, she seemed almost wooden and one dimensional. Within the camera, angled over her shoulder to look down on Mother Teresa's tiny frame, she began, "Why, Mother Teresa? Why do you kiss the dying beggar? Why do you walk the streets searching for them?" Without so much as a turn, she answered simply, because it is him. I am holding him. By him, you mean God? The interviewer probed. A startled look showed on the nun's face. Yes, of course. God, Jesus. She shuffled on. The children ran to her. She brushed her craggy knuckles and her hand against their hair, gently sweeping it off of their face. She was speaking in a language I didn't understand, but the camera captured the intent of her smile in a language I did know. Kindness, simple touch, attention, valuable gifts of love tumbling from her very and every appendage. The children clung to her, hugging her, as the television crew caught up with her. Mother, how do you sustain these efforts and efforts to those who have chosen to follow you into this calling? Where does the money come from? She looked out at the street, at people moving like currents against another. People see him here too. They give. It is enough. No 800 numbers keyed in on the screen, no address, no solicitation. On she went. The camera cut to a dark, barren structure where people laid on small rugs. There were many. One severely disfigured man lay on his pallet, his shrunken arm gripping Mother Teresa's at the elbow. She returned his grasp, and with her free hand she wiped his brow and then kissed it. She was old, yet she knelt on the bare floor beside him. She spoke to him in soft tones that reminded me of my own mother, sweet whispers and comfort. His eyes struggled to stay focused on her smiling face, but they failed and closed with exhaustion. There was a quiet reverse as the interviewer continued with Mother Teresa in the dim light of the singular window. Who are these people? She asked with the appropriate seriousness. Him. And that's all she said, leaving the interviewer stunned. But where do they come from, Mother? Mother Teresa gestured with her arm widely and vaguely, and yet there was a specificness to it. Out there, she said. I found myself weeping and panicking as I continually shifted the rabbit ears, trying to chase away the snow from the picture. It hindered the audio, so I strained for her words, already veiled by her heavy accent. A few times I heard them sonically, but the emotional decoding took a moment. I was broken by their impact minutes after they were spoken. I stopped myself mid-blow, afraid I might miss the next. The result was a stuttering, passionate roller coaster, interrupted only by the sound of my pencil scratching on a pad. I wanted to remember her every word. At the end of the interview, I looked down at what was written, all I saw was the word him. How great a love, how compelling a reason to love and to live. She said, I do because when I do for him. Katie calls me a few days later after Mother Teresa's death, and we remembered her. You know, I think it's kind of sad that Princess Diana's death in some ways obscured the significance of the moment of Mother Teresa's death. I don't think she received the honor she deserved because of it. My sister said that. And I disagreed. I said, Kate, I think it was exactly the way she wanted it. She'd noted the death of Diana, and I think in some ways it released her to go herself in the way that she was accustomed to. She knew that Diana would be the focus. In truth, what other death could command such a response as to obscure her own? She slipped from us the only way she could have, with the least amount of fanfare. Her death at any other time would have been elicited more of a response she'd spent her entire life avoiding. The attention, the elevation of her simple act of love over the reason for those simple acts. My sister said, I never thought of it that way. And then my sister, Katie, becomes my childhood sister once again. She speaks to me in the way that she did under the blankets with a flashlight turned upward on her face. Do you think they see each other up there in heaven? You know, they were friends in real life. I doubt it, I said. Disappointed, she shoots back, well, why not? Because, Kate, if true beauty is visible in heaven, Mother Teresa will be a devastating bombshell, and Di will probably walk right past her. We laugh at the innocent truth of it all, and then we fall silent, reflecting on a woman, a holy woman, who spent every last bit of her existence giving and loving, touching the leper, the indignant, the mangled, all to touch him, all to serve him. Each stroke, each kiss carved a beauty in her, a stellar brilliance that will outlast every measurement of time as we know it. We prepare to hang up, and Kate adds, remember that story about Cecilia? Well, the next day I was quizzing the class on what we had learned, and I pointed to Mother Teresa's picture and called on Cecilia to tell who she was. And Cecilia answered, "Dat a saint, Miss Becker. She's a saint." Cecilia knows what she knows. And that story again was taken from a book called With New Eyes by Margaret Becker. I also wanted to read you a poem tonight, and hopefully I can put it on the screen. That way you can read it with me. And I took some liberties of changing a few words. And it reads, God, we are always looking for you in the wrong places, among the good and respectable people, when we should know you are found with those deemed lowly, poor, and outcasts. God, we're always looking for you in the wrong places, at a safe distance, but you come so close to us, closer than our own breath. We look for you in churchy things, but we are more likely to find you among the pots and the pans and around the kitchen table. We look for you in buildings, but you walked crowded streets, and shorelines, and mountains. Even now, even after Easter, still we insist on trying to find you among the tombstones, among long dead dogmas and rituals, in old decaying fears and hurts, in the guilts and the resentments we inhabit like a coffin. God, help us to lay down the grave clothes and roll away the stone and come out into life here and now. We will find you among the living, ahead of us, going into the future we seek. You have wrestled death to the ground, and now there is nowhere we can go, no darkness we can enter, which is not God encompassed. By Katie Galloway of the Iona community. My friends, God is not dead, and Jesus has risen. And a lot of times we look for him in places and we don't find him because we look for him in the obvious. And sometimes God is in the most unobvious place there is. I think Mother Teresa understood that. I think she realized that in her seeing him, knowing that she was Catholic and viewing God as him, I think she knew something that most people don't. And that is, from my understanding anyway, that Christ is found in the brokenness of people. And that is my hope, that during this time we can find Christ, we can find God in our own brokenness and in the brokenness of other people. It is a hard and difficult time. And some days, I was talking with a friend today, sometimes I have good days. We have good days. And some days are hard. Some days are harder. And we seem to go up and down and have this roller coaster ride. But if we look for Christ in the places where we don't expect him, and I say him of the background that I come from, God is in the midst of what we are going through, what we have been through, and what we're going to go through. And my hope is that we have eyes to see that. I hope I have eyes to see that. So, my friends, tonight, my prayer for you and for me is that we find God among the living, that we find God going ahead of us into the future. Because God has already wrestled death to the ground. And there is nowhere we can't go that God already is. Did I say that right? We can't go anywhere that God is not. I hope I said that right. God encompasses every fiber of this life, every atom. And so I say goodnight to you, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening. Church is on Sunday at 9:30. And like I said, we're going to be using this format. Hopefully I can figure it out by then. And we have a couple announcements, new announcements that we're going to make on Sunday morning as well. So hopefully you will join us and we will have a good time that morning. Blessings to all and have a good night.